financial problems, troubled family relationships, unplanned pregnancy, broken marriage, delinquent children, or overwhelming grief? Are you burdened by the care of life? Are you feeling hopeless? Friend, whatever you are going through, whatever questions you may have, God has the answers. We invite you to join us on the couch, a Bible-based program that will give you insight into what the Bible says about these critical issues of life. We present to you On the Couch, finding hope in the midst of a crisis.
Good evening. Welcome to On the Couch. On the Couch is planned with you in mind. And we're glad that many families have been benefiting from the On the Couch program that we have been having. We're glad that you choose to join us. And we want you to know that you are to invite your friends and your family members, your neighbors, to tune in. Ask them to subscribe to this program. On the couch with me this evening is Pastor Ruba Liu. Pastor Ruba is the Family Ministries Director of the Texas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Pastor, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we are delighted to have you on the couch. And we know that whatever you have to share with us as we deal with the matter of parenting will be a blessing to our viewers as they tune in when this program is aired. So welcome to you. Pastor, tell me about yourself.
Well, we're happy to accept this invitation, Pastor Walkers, for the opportunity to be here in this very exciting presentation that you have today about parenting. I am thankful to be a parent. We have planned my wife to be here today, but she sent me as a representative for circumstances beyond control. She couldn't be here. So I feel a little empty talking about parenting without her being by my side. But I'll try to do my best without her. This is a topic that is of great need in our communities. Whether you are a single parent, whether you are a parent, whether you are a grandparent parenting, which is happening a lot. From our part, we have had the opportunity to raise two children with for the last 22 years. And so we have had a lot of mistakes to correct, but I think the mistakes are good teachers, and it helps us to be better parents. So we'd like to share today, perhaps, not just much about successes, but what are the things that we've learned in parenting.
Okay. One of the things I recognize, and I don't know if it can be related to you, but when my wife had our children, for each child that she had, I recognized that there was no manual coming from the doctor who delivered. It was what our parents taught us, what we read about, what we did in school. So it was trial and error. Is that the same thing with you?
For some reason, it seems to be a pretty norm. Even you're told to prepare yourself, but when you become a parent, you don't find these encouraging words to be applicable to you until the moment you find yourself stranded. And then you realize you better do some reading and some research in how to do this. But yeah, that's a reality that most of us don't prepare for this task that it takes a lifetime to do.
Yes, and I agree with that, a lifetime. Because even after the nest gets empty, we still have to father and mother them.
You will continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Pastor, how do we maintain meaningful, and I want to stretch that word and stress on it, meaningful family counsel family meeting, family relationship?
Well, I think this concept goes even before you become parents. If we're I'm sure we have some young couples watching us today, this presentation, which I'm grateful that you thought about this. The husband and wife, before even children come, need to have some regular time together where they can talk. If they begin early in this journey, where let's say once a week they do a date, they go outside, how's it going? How are you feeling about our relationship? What are some of the things that maybe this week were a little less desirable from me? So if you start that without the children, it'll be a lot easier once the children come to continue that into the relationship. Of course, when they're little kids, it's hard to do that. But I would say two things that are a must if you want to develop these family times together of conversation, not just of fun, but we're talking about productive conversation, is meals together.
Okay.
I think meals together is the most underutilized way or opportunities to have family councils. Because if you eat together, you can have conversations, healthy conversations. Meals are not a time to solve problems, because you want meals always to be joyful, but it's a time to have conversations that are things such as vacation time, or well, should we go next week, or different activities. If you foster that dialoguing while you're eating together, then when it comes to more serious matters, you already have a foundation that we know how to talk. You put the phones on the side before you come to the table, leave the phones in a little basket, right? And then have some conversation. I think that begins a good. And the second one, I would say, is family worship. When you develop some family worship time, it allows the family to have dialogues. When you read a text, let's not be just the father explaining everything or the mother explaining everything. Ask questions. Says, what do you think about this very hard text that we just read from the Bible? And have the kids talk about it. And that creates an environment of conversation. So again, when the hard issue comes, that we need to talk about difficult times, there is already some comfort of coming around the table and talking about different issues.
Okay. You mentioned family worship. But let's face it, Pastor. We are living in modern days, 21st century. People don't have time for things like those.
Yeah.
Why family worship? Why we can't just go about our own business and do our individual worship? Why? What's the meaning of having family worship?
Yeah. Well, depends on our audience that we're speaking here to. If this is an audience that we don't have any spiritual or faith background, this may not mean a lot. But if we're talking about people who have some type of knowledge about God, we definitely understand that a family without God's presence, it's nearly impossible to have a peaceful home. So family worships create an opportunity not only to connect with God, but also to connect with one another, to pray for one another. And we can get into the technicality of family worship, but this is not a time to do the whole thing. But I think it's important that families carve out daily a time to make sure that you present yourself, you expose yourselves to the source of peace and strength.
Okay. And I want to agree with you on that. And if I may, I would like to share an experience that my family and I had. Might have been 10 or more years ago. But we were living in this community. And in that community, about 200 yards from our home was an Adventist home. And every morning, we would wake our children up, and at 5:30 a.m., we would have family worship, and would have that for half an hour. Little did we know how it impact that little circle that we were living in.
Wow.
Until when we were moved, we were now going into our own home. And one of the neighbors, two neighbors came across, one the Adventist and another. They came across to bid us goodbye. And one of the things that first the Adventist neighbor said was, "You don't know how much you guys have blessed us in the morning with your singing." And my wife and I, we looked at each other because we're saying, what? We didn't know that the angels were allowing those melodies to reach across to the neighbors. And the other one agreed. So yes, we are not only ministering to our family, our immediate family, but we are ministering also to those close to us, our neighbors.
Absolutely.
And yes, I also agree. If you do not believe in God, nonetheless, it was C.D. Brooks that said, "We are wired to worship."
That's right.
So therefore, there is something you believe in, and somebody woke you up this morning. Somebody certainly did. So,
and if I might pause here for a moment for even those viewers that are struggling with this, because we may not be able to talk about this later on. There's a little tool that I think it's appropriate to make available to those who are watching, and they can go. Probably you can put there the little website where they can download this a copy for free, or they can order one, which is how to make family worship stress-free.
Okay.
Because sometimes parents feel that there's so much stress. We don't know what to do. The kids are rowdy. The kids are noisy. But I realize that when you get the kids engaged in something a little colorful and different than this, there's a little wheel that if you spin the wheel, it will point out what type of activities, and it gives you suggestions of activities that you could do for family worship.
Good.
Just a side note, which I think we find that very helpful too.
Sure, and we'll make sure to get that on our website, the Family on the Couch website, as we go along. We are busy people. And there's so much to do. We don't have enough hours in our day to do what we need to do. How can we, as parents, teach our children life skill when there is no time? We have to work, we have to run errands. There is so much.
Absolutely, yeah. We all experience busyness. I think that's one of the maladies of society. There's not enough hours to do what we need to do. But so I think I'm finding a little amusing is we did have time to have children though, and so we seem to find time to do the things that we want to do, and I think I would suggest to young parents that if you have no time to be a parent, choose not to be a parent. It's better not to be a parent and then put your kids through abandonment, shall I say, But I think that we can solve that in a very practical way. If we engage our kids in our own duties, instead of we thinking, I'm going to do this for myself. But why don't we invite the kids to the bank? Come with me. We're going to do a transaction. Especially if they're a little older, right? That's part of life activities. Let them watch what you do, and you explain what we don't use a lot of checks this day and age, but let's explain what an ATM does. Let's explain how do you get your money out and in, and it's a little field trip of doing certain things. Do you go to the mechanic? Take a child with you to the mechanic, and explain them why is it important to do some maintenance, oil change. What is the mechanic skills of the mechanic? Bring your child to as much as the life activities and life skills that you do. You already know how to do them. You do them regularly instead of just saying, just do this for myself because I cannot have this child. You'll be surprised that you are killing a lot of birds with one stone. You're spending time with your child. The child is excited that he's going out with you to something that my dad is taking me, my mom is taking me to do this. And number 3, they're watching you. We cannot underestimate the amount of learning the kids do just by watching us do life. But if we don't take them to do life with us, you miss out. We miss out. Our kids will miss out in all this. So you can think of a lot of things that you do, and of course there are some of the things that are not appropriate. That the child presence is not preferable. But a lot of things we do in life, kids can hang along, tag along, and they will learn a lot of these life skills.
Okay, yeah. The old school will tell us that in the olden days, you and my parents, it was said, children must be seen but not heard. And the form of discipline was completely different to what it is in these modern days.
Yeah.
Corporal punishment, there are laws for that. And if you breach those laws, you can end up in jail. In my opinion, one of the things that this has caused also is disrespect and, in some cases, rebellion that cannot be controlled. But especially for a Christian family, we need to have ways and means how to communicate with our children or teenagers or adolescents, and what we need to do. What is your recommendation as to how we deal with disrespect among our children or youth, or even the smallest ones can be disrespectful at times? What do you recommend to parents as it relates to how they can nip that, one, and two, if this is founded in their child or children, how do they deal with it? Because some parents don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. I'm so glad, Pastor, that you began this episode with a question about family counsel. And it is critical for children to know that there is a line opened for communication early on in their lives. Studies have shown that negligence equals rebellion. Negligence equals rebellion. So not all cases, but the majority of cases of rebellion can be traced back to some type of negligence, where the parent has been inaccessible to the child, where the parent has been extremely absent in the life of the child, where daily communication that involves a very relaxed communication. And when I'm talking about relaxed communication, means we'll talk about anything. How did it go the day? Not at this rush thing. Did you do the homework? Did you pick up your toys? Did you clean the bathroom? If that is the only conversation that you're having with your kids, that equals to negligence. My father is not interested in my issues. They never ask me how did my day go, and they don't listen. And if I say something that they don't want to hear, they sermonize it for 30 minutes, And so a lot of this rebellion that we find today is highly connected to little relaxed time of togetherness. So the second question you asked was about life skills. When you involve your kids in your life and you take them to do things with you, all these things minimize tremendously the factor of mechanism of defense. A child becomes an affront to the parent, as that's a way of, it's almost like a pain. The pain is only a reaction of something deeper. There's an issue. The pain is the scream. The body is screaming There is something wrong inside your body. When a child rebels, it's almost it's not the cause, but it's a symptom of that cause. Now, what do you do if you are at the point that you realize that you haven't probably done a lot of time with the kids, and now you're facing what do you do at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
It is important now at this point to do some self-reflection and see where perhaps you have been disconnected with your children. And at that point, don't be afraid to say to that child, I've done some personal reflection about my last 10 years of parenting or 15 years of parenting. And here's what I discover about my shortcomings as a parent. And I realize that I have not listened to you properly, that I have perhaps not spoken to you properly,
Mm-hmm.
that I perhaps even disrespected you in my ways. And I want to say, I am sorry. And I like to apologize for not being that father or that mother that you deserve to have. And I want to mend it. Can we work together? Can you help me to be the father that you want me to be? You have no idea how much breaking of walls, that sincere conversation with your child is, where you, instead of blaming the child for being rebellious, you recognize that perhaps you have a lot of the responsibility why the child is rebellious, if that makes some sense. But that I will start there, in that, with that bottom line. And of course, then you'll need to, if you need to involve some type of counseling, some type of external help, don't be afraid to do so, because sometimes the situation has become to such extreme now, where perhaps there are even drugs involved, or there are sometimes serious choices that the child has made where you need some intervention. But starting that point, it will ease the child to say, I think I can try, because every child wants to have a father and a mother that is understanding of their needs.
Pastor, I hear your answer, but I can just picture it right now. A parents listening, watching this program, and they're saying, Pastor, are you mad? I must apologize to my child? Pastor, get out of here. What do you have to say to those parents?
Yeah.
I heard your answer, but we also have to be real, because they're out there. What's your counsel to those parents?
And that's what is so critical, that you do self-reflection, okay? And I think self-reflection will put you at a very honest position where you have been as a parent. When you do marriage counseling, usually the marriages that never flourish or never pass beyond the obstacle is when you have a spouse that never recognizes his or her contribution to the problem. And I think the same thing with any relationship. If we never recognize that we're not the perfect parent, and I know people say as a couple, well, I'm not a perfect parent, I know that. But I think the question is, where in that process you need some growth. And as you acknowledge that you need some growth, don't just acknowledge that you're not a perfect parent, because I haven't found one yet that can say, I'm a perfect parent. I think it's not the issue saying I'm not a perfect parent, but it says, where in this journey have not been a perfect parent, and what am I doing about that? Because that part that you acknowledge not being perfect may be the one that is affecting the whole relationship that you're having with your children. And just by mending one of those things that you acknowledge that needs some work, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how much progress you can make in your parenting journey and skills.
I'm from the Caribbean. And one of the things that we grew up hearing, maybe not from our direct family, but from the neighbors, I bring this child into this world, I'll take them out. If they cannot respect me or respect others, I will take them out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, that definitely hasn't worked. so, so if we're gonna continue that route, definitely it will not work.
The answers that you have given is so in order, and one of the things I would like to put in it is the whole matter what the advice that you have given does. It helps to bond.
Mm.
And it is very important. When I speak to couples preparing for marriage, I speak a lot about bonding.
Mm.
Because what bonding does is that it helps you to know each other and to spend time with each other. So, sure enough, but there are also those who are from the old school who believe, and rightly so in some aspect, that it takes a village to raise a child. But we have moved away from that.
Yeah.
And the new way of doing things, inclusive of child rearing, has been more imbibed into the lives of parents. And with parents going out there, both parents to work and to make ends meet and all of that, the child has been neglected. And in their neglect, because there's not family worship, because there's not reading of the Bible, because there's not praying together as a family, you find that the taste for church, for God, has become limited.
Mm. Mm.
Hence, our children don't want to go to church.
Absolutely.
What can you do or say to encourage parents to be more careful with how they grow their children, to make them not hate church, but love to attend church?
Absolutely. That's such a critical question, Pastor. We parents are perhaps the first and last view of God that our kids will ever have.
Mm.
And I say first and last because what we engraved in the hearts of the children will make them what they are for life in most cases. And so if my reflection as a father is this angry father, this domineering father, or this angry mother, or this violent parent, or this abusive parent, or this disrespectful parent. And when I say disrespectful, it could be with your own spouse, because the kids are watching how am I relating with my spouse. And then outside that, I claim some type of fellowship with a God that I want my children to follow. They will disassociate very rapidly from this God that you're claiming to worship and claiming to be the solution to the problems of humanity. So it is actually critical that our skills as parents reflect more and more the parenting style of God. Mm-hmm. And we find this parenting style throughout the scriptures very powerfully. A God who is slow to anger, a father who goes and finds the heartbroken and brings them home. This father who receives this prodigal child who's wasted half of the inheritance, and instead of recriminating, why did you just wasted my 30 years of hard savings, he throws a party for his rebellious child. When we as parents begin to portray that, it will automatically begin to create a desire to experience this God we're preaching to our parents, to our children. So you ask the question now, how do we encourage them to come to church? Because for whatever reasons that you may be that father, and still the children don't want to come to church.
Yeah.
Because we know that to any consolation, God the Father was the best father, and He's the best father in the world, and He lost 2 kids. You know, so you could have been doing everything in the best of your ability and still come out with rebellious children. So not necessarily good parenting, it's the cure for rebellious children. We live in this sinful world, it happens. But I will start asking the question, let's talk about, what is discouraging you from coming to church?
Yeah.
Instead of saying you dressed up and we're going whether you like it or not. Because I remember those days, where, I'm not living, and you have, on one hand, you have the Bible, and the other one have the whip.
Yes.
So the child look at the Bible and the whip and says, they look the same to me now. But have conversations. Again, it's going back to that, and Claire, I commend you for beginning the conversation with family counsel. It all goes back to that open line of communication. Let's talk about what troubles you. Why is it that coming to church is a challenge to you these days? And listen to the children. And they will, if you sincerely want to hear and not justify anything that you want to do, and come out with the solutions together, you'll soon will find that the kids might be more quickly to come to church that you want to. I remember one time my son, he was younger, and I think he was about 14 years old. And he got up one day and he says, "Dad, you know what? I don't want to go to church." And me as a father and pastor is like, you have no options. You coming with me to church, But then I realized, I said, "I understand, son. Well, I hope you have a good Sabbath with Jesus today here at home. And let me know how it went with Jesus today." And I left. We all left, and he stayed home. That issue was never, ever brought up again. Next Sabbath, he was... But I'm almost wonder what would have happened if I would have just said, "You're out of your mind. We're going to church whether you like it or not." I wonder if that would have been what would have been the result. But I think have been understanding that the kids, they have their periods of times where they need to. And one last thing on this, which is critical, Pastor, is if they're younger and they don't want to come to church, if it's a child that is anywhere between 8 and 12 and 13, that's really a rare. Usually that happens when the kids are like 15 and older. But if you have a child that tells you, "I don't want to go to church, I want to go to that Sabbath school," red flag. Something may be happening that your child is not telling you in secret. There may be an abuser, there may be a pedophile, someone, and you have to really find out what's going on. Because usually kids at that age, that young, they want to come to church. They will not tell you. But if they tell you they don't want to go to Sabbath school or Sunday school, whatever you're going to, find out in a very, very relaxed conversation what is going on.
So your advice to parents with children in that age group is do not rush them or demand that they come to church, but find a way if they are refusing to come as to what's the reason.
What is the reason?
Because there may be something that they're not sharing.
They're not sharing.
And this is something we want our viewers, our listeners, to take note of. And oftentimes as parents, we are hasty because we believe that, hey, church is the place to be.
Yeah.
So how dare you? But we must be wise. And plus we know our children.
Yes.
So we must be wise in that. The earth, the world, is filled with disaster, all different kinds. And this has brought discouragement on the godly and the ungodly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our young people, our children, they are looking on. And some of them are wondering, who is this God? My friend have cancer. My mama is sick with a terminal illness. Why should I worship this God who is so mean to those whom I love?
Yeah.
Contextualize that for me and give us some advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked earlier about family worship. What I find is a lot of families are reactive, and they try to bring some sense to the family needs, not gradually, but at the moment of the crisis. And so if there is some foundation, early foundation, where the Bible is full of tragedy, the Bible is full of the effects of evil upon humanity. There's so many stories in the Bible that explain where is God when tragedies happen. And a very popular story is the story of Job.
Yeah.
You know, but you cannot make any sense of that if you never spend time with the family throughout the years, creating some type of foundation when that moment comes. So it definitely becomes more challenging when all of a sudden we see the world just falling apart in front of us to try to create some sense to our kids who are now saying, where is this God? And you will find that, yeah, we all can fit those moments, because even, you know, we have some godly people in the Bible, and even Jesus himself on the cross says, why have you forsaken me, God? You know, so we all can face those moments of, did God lose the battle? Is God really what he is? Is God really what the Bible says he is? Nevertheless, it is definitely proven that when there has been a steady building of that foundation throughout the years, it makes it a lot easier to bounce back when the doubt comes. Okay? So my encouragement is, if you as a parent, you're watching right now, had never really started that tradition of gathering the family for some time in the presence of God, that you begin tonight.
Okay.
You begin tonight, and I would say this: don't be too hasty as far as saying, tonight from 7 to 8, we're gonna be in the living room and we're gonna read 5 chapters of the book of Revelation, you know? So I think a lot of parents want to get there too quickly when they have not done it. So I always counsel parents who never done family worship, who never brought their family together, you need to do this at least for the next 3 months, where you only have a short prayer in the morning and evening. Keep it a simple 1 minute. Hey sons, before we go to dismiss, before we disband this morning after breakfast or everybody goes to school, let's come together. And as a father, if you're the father, I will encourage, if you're a father in the family, do it together as a father. If it's a single parent, if you're the mother, do it as a mother. Bring the children together and have a short prayer. Lord, blessed these wonderful kids of mine, this blessed, beautiful wife that you've given me. Today, we don't know what we're gonna face today, but we know that you're God. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. And don't even kneel. If you've never done it, don't scare them out. Because all of a sudden, at the drop of a hat, you ask them to kneel and all that. That can be a little uncomfortable. So just do it. I just standing there in a little circle. And as the time progresses, you'll know 3 months later, then you can move to a little more of that. And by doing so, you begin to create a sense that there is a God, because when God is, there is freedom. And when you invite the presence of God, even without you doing much explanation of why this world is the way it is, they begin to have peace in their hearts.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Boundaries are very important in our individual lives. And especially when our children move from the children's stage, the child's stage, to the teenage stage. They want their privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that once they turn 10, 11, moving on, they want their privacy. How, as a parent, we recommend that our children, we give them their privacy, nonetheless, we guide them with boundaries. You cannot go beyond so.
Yeah. I always remember the story of this very prominent, not prominent, I would say in the good sense, but very sought out criminal who have had a history of he was a serial killer, and he was interviewed by someone to say, what do you hear? Why did you become such a criminal? And the answer that really came out of that interview was, I wish my parents would have been a little stricter with me. And when he says stricter, meaning, I think what he meant is, I wish my parents would have placed some more real boundaries in my life, where they would have told me, you're gonna come this far, but not this far. And contrary to public beliefs that the kids want freedom, the kids want structure.
Okay.
And they feel more loved and accepted, even though at the moment they will fight you. They feel more loved and accepted and cared when there is clear, how far shall I go? When they see that is clear, delineated, the message that they get at that moment or eventually is, I have someone who really cares for me. Now, they may not show that when you're saying it. Now, going back to foundation, you cannot start putting boundaries overnight when you have never done it. You will create a lot more pushback, a lot more rebellion. So you start creating boundaries early on, as early as the child comes out of the womb. You teach the child how often do they eat. They teach the child, how often, all these different things that you start creating their structure. Life is a structure. There's time to sleep, there's a time to play, there's a time to, and those are little things that you teach the kids, clear boundaries. When the child is moving across the house, you teach them, where do you go? What do you touch? Why don't you touch? They're getting in his mind that there are things that I can do, there are things that I cannot do. But if you have been too lax or neglectful throughout the life, and now you wake up and you realize, whoa, what have I done? I have led these kids thinking that was the best way for me to love them, let them do whatever they want to and give them whatever they want to. You cannot start setting boundaries all of a sudden. So you go back again to the self-reflection, where you realize and it's a hard thing because nobody wants to acknowledge that I've been lacking in my skills anyway. But this is the only way. I haven't found any other way to enter easier into the heart of our children. And then you reflect, and then you realize what areas you could have been done better. And now you come and have a moment of discussion with your children, and you say, I really thought this was best for you. But after reading and after educating myself, I realized that I should have put some more boundaries in your lives. Now it is kind of late for me to all of a sudden give you boundaries. However, it's never too late to start somewhere, because this is the benefit for you. And then you lay out for them the carpet and you say, let's talk about, for example, let's talk about video games. Let me give you an example. You know, the parents think that video games should raise the kids 8 hours playing video games, you know? So you talk to them about what are some of the benefits and what are some of the not benefits of video game and how, you know, they help you or not. And then you have them help you create their own boundaries. Have them choose their own boundaries. How long is too long for you? And negotiate. And you at first you may not agree with the boundaries they had put, but if they had put them, help them to fulfill them. And little by little you start moving them back into a more, I would say, a more proper way of living boundary. But it's more aggressive, and that's for a parent who all of a sudden woke up, right? I'm just thinking, you know, for a parent who just realized that he needs to start, invite them into the conversation, help them themselves put boundaries that they can live by, and let them experiment a little bit with those boundaries they put by. They may not be very wise boundaries, but you let them experiment. And if they do well, then they will be more willing to set more straightforward boundaries that are more healthy for their lives.
Yeah. Pastor, it is so strange when we're having a good time, how time runs so fast. And therefore, we will have to end this interview at this time. But before we do so, I want you to speak to the parent out there this evening. Share with them how important it is, one, to guide their child, their children, to gain their confidence and respect, and also to point them to the fact that there is a creator. There is one who woke them up this morning. Whether that there are going to be many parents viewing this program inside the US and outside. There are going to be those who believe in God and those who don't. But we want to impact the lives of the parent that has a child or children this evening to say, hey, be cognizant of the fact that you are not alone in this. And there is a higher power than you if you don't believe in God. And if you believe in God, then you need to understand that He should be served as you lead your children along.
Yeah. If I only have 1 second to summarize this, and it may sound a little ungodly what I'm about to say,
Okay.
right? But I would say have lots of fun. What does fun has to do with pointing my children to God? I would say almost everything. When God created Adam and Eve, He created fun before He created the Sabbath. He made the most appealing, the most desirable, the most exciting place before He talks to them about spiritual things. He gave them the entire garden. He gave them everything that the eye should enjoy. And then at the end of that week, after they enjoyed that few hours, of course, haven't been created for too long, then God introduces the spiritual part. I have discovered, Pastor, that when we have fun with our children, the door soften, the door of the heart is so soft to the things of God. When we laugh together, when we play together, when we do fun things together, And then at the end of that moment, I sit and I said, isn't God so good to us? Look how much fun we had today. They will say, yeah, Dad, this was the best day of my life. And what you're doing is you're pointing that child to the source of fun.
Okay.
Because good fun comes from God. Bible says that every good gift and feeling good, it's a gift from God. Feeling loved is a gift from God. Feeling understood is a gift from God. So let me just wrap out with a little simple tool here. You know, we talked about two of these. There are many. This one's for family worship. This is, we call it a family fun spinner. You know, where, you know, the kids come and says, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. And the father says, shut up. Go over there, do your homework. I'm busy right now. What your kid is telling you is, I want to do something with you that is special, that is meaningful. And what a lot of parents don't realize is this time that you'll be with that child is so short. The time that the child will be wanting to do something with you is so short, and we push it off, and when we realize we lost them. So another simple tool, just spin the arrow, and whatever it points to, it tells you what type of fun activities you can do for this evening. And after that fun moment, they will have no objection for you to say, tell me, would you like to have more of this loving and fun God in your life? Yes, Daddy, this was very good. Thank you. Why don't we pray together here and we thank God for giving us each other, that we can have such a good time together. Because God is all about relationships. And in this planet, you cannot forge relationship unless you have good times.
Wow. Wow. Pastor, I really want to thank you.
My pleasure.
And for our listeners or viewers, I want them to know that your special area is indeed family ministries. And you have a wealth of experience in that. And many families have been better because of your counsel. So we here at Fil-Am and Access, we really want to thank you for taking the time out to be with us on the couch. My friends, we are thankful to you for viewing, for joining. We want you to know that you can send your questions in to onthecouchministry@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. Please subscribe to On the Couch. Invite your friends, your co-workers, your schoolmates to be a part of this, because we want to help you. We want to help your family to be better family. And if your family can be better, your community will be better. So, On the Couch is geared towards helping to assist you as an individual and as a family with God-given Bible-backed information to your questions that so often are asked, but there is no answer. I want to thank you for joining us. Until we meet again, remember, Friday evening, Central Time, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Join us on the couch. God bless.